The standard of Ur and other objects from the royal graves. The city of Ur, known today as Tel El Mugayyar, the Mound of Pitch. The site was occupied from around 5000 BCE to 300 BCE. Although Ur is famous as the home of the Old Testament patriarch Abraham, that is from Genesis 11:29 through 32, there is no actual proof that Tel El Mugayyar was identical with Ur of the Chaldees. In antiquity, the city was known as Urim. And then this is a picture, and it says up underneath that it is a street scene at Ur in the level of the Abrahamic period, 2000 to 19,000 BC. The main excavations at Ur were undertaken from 1922 to 34 by a joint expedition of the British Museum and the University Museum, Pennsylvania, led by Leonard Woolley. At the center of the settlement were mud brick temples dating back to the 4th millennium BCE. At the edge of the sacred area, a cemetery grew up, which included burials known today as the royal graves. An area of ordinary people's houses was excavated, in which a number of street corners have small shrines. But the largest surviving religious building dedicated to the moon god Inanna also include one of the best preserved ziggurats, and were founded in the period 2100 to 1800 BCE. For some of this time, Ur was the capital of an empire stretching across southern Mesopotamia. Rulers of the later Kassite and Neo-Babylonian empires continued to build and rebuild at Ur. Changes in both the flow of the river Euphrates, now some 10 miles to the east, and trade routes led to the eventual abandonment of the site. The royal graves of Ur. Close to the temple buildings at the center of the city of Ur sat a rubbish dump built over centuries. Unable to use the area for building, the people of Ur started to bury their dead there. The cemetery was used between about 2600 to 2000 BCE, and hundreds of burials were made in pits. Many of these contained very rich materials. In one area of the cemetery, a group of 16 graves was dated to the middle 3rd millennium. These large shaft graves were distinct from the surrounding burials and consisted of a tomb made of stone, rubble, and bricks, built at the bottom of a pit. The layout of the tombs varied. Some occupied the entire floor of the pit and had multiple chambers. The most complete tomb discovered belonged to a lady identified as Pu Abi, from the name carved on a cylinder seal found in the burial. And this is a picture of the cylinder seal that belonged to Pu Abi. The majority of the graves have been robbed in antiquity, but where evidence survived in the main burial, The majority of the graves had been robbed in antiquity, but where evidence survived, the main burial was surrounded by many human bodies. One grave had up to 74 such sacrificial victims. It is evident that elaborate ceremonies took place as the pits were filled in that included more human burials and offerings of food and objects. The excavator, Leonard Woolley, thought the graves belonged to kings and queens. Another suggestion is that they belonged to the high priestess of Ur. The standard of Ur. This object was found in one of the largest graves in the Royal Cemetery at Ur, lying in the corner of the chamber above the right shoulder of a man. Its original function is not yet understood. And this is a picture. It says here that this is the P side of the Standard of Ur. It gives the time period 2600 to 2400 BCE. It's made of shell, red limestone, lapis lazuli, and bitumen. The original wood no longer exists. It is somewhere between 21.59 by 49.53 by 12 centimeters. It belongs to the British Museum. Leonard Woolley, the excavator of Ur, imagined that it was carried on a pole as a standard, hence its common name. Another theory suggests that it formed the sound box of a musical instrument. When found, the original wooden frame for the mosaic of shell, red limestone, and lapis lazuli had decayed, and the two main panels had been crushed together by the weight of the soil. The bitumen, acting as glue, had disintegrated and the end panels were broken. As a result, the present restoration is only a best guess as to how it originally appeared. So this is the war side, which is opposite of the peace side. This is still the Standard of Ur, and it still has everything the same as the other one. The main panels are shown as war and peace. War shows one of the earliest representations of a Sumerian army. Chariots, each pulled by 4 donkeys, trample enemies. Infantry with cloaks carry spear. Enemy soldiers are killed with axes. Others are paraded naked and presented to a king who holds a spear. The peace side depicts animals, fish, and other goods brought in procession to a banquet. Seated figures wear woolen fleeces or fringed skirts, drink to the accompaniment of magicians playing a lyre. Banquet scenes such as this are common on cylinder seals of the period, such as the seal of Queen Pu-Abi, also in the museum. And we looked at that before, but we'll go back and look at that again so that you can see that people are all drinking and sitting and having a lovely time. The Queen's Lyre, I think. Leonard Woolley discovered several lyres in the graves at the Royal Cemetery at Ur. This is one of 2 that he found in the grave of Queen Pu-Abi, along with the lyre, which stood against the pit wall where the body of 10 women with fine jewelries, presumed to be sacrificial victims, and numerous stone and metal vessels. One woman lay right against the lyre, and according to Woolley, the bones of her hands were placed on where the strings would have been. This shows the lyre and how it was reconstructed, okay? The wooden parts of the lyre had decayed in the soil, but Woolley poured plaster of Paris into the depression left by the vanished wood and so preserved the decoration in place. The front panels were made of lapis lazuli, shell, and red limestone, originally set in bitumen. The gold mask of the bull decorating the front of the sounding box had been crushed and had to be restored. While the horns are modern, the beard, the hair, and the eyes are original and made of lapis lazuli. So this shows you the bull that they're talking about, okay? And you can see how he's part of the lyre. This musical instrument was originally reconstructed as part of a unique harp lyre together with a harp from the burial, now also in the British Museum. Later research showed that that was a mistake, and a new reconstruction based on excavation photographs was made in 1971 and 72. And that is the end of our video.